Jonathan Edwards, in whose home died that remarkable man, Mr. David Brainard, the first missionary to the Indians, and whose devotion to Christ was witnessed to by all who knew him, and with whom he was intimately acquainted, says in his memoirs of Mr. Brainard, his religious illuminations, affections, and comfort seemed to a great degree to be attended with evangelical humiliation, consisting in a sense of his own utter insufficiency, despicableness, and odiousness, with an answering disposition and frame of heart. How deeply affected was he almost continually with his great defects in religion, with his vast distance from that spirituality and holy frame of mind that become a child of God, with his ignorance, pride, deadness, barrenness. He was not only affected with the remembrance of his former sinfulness before his conversion, but with the sense of his present vileness and pollution. He was not only disposed to think other saints better than he, yea, to look on himself as the worst and least of saints, but very often as the vilest and worst of mankind. Jonathan Edwards himself, than whom few men have been more honored of God, either in their spiritual attainments or in the extent to which God has used them in blessing to others near the end of his life, wrote thus, "When I look into my heart and take a view of its wickedness, it looks like an abyss infinitely deeper than hell, and it appears to me that were it not for free grace, exalted and raised up to the infinite height of all the fullness and glory of the great Jehovah, I should appear sunk down in my sins below hell itself, far below the sight of everything but the eye of sovereign grace that alone can pierce down to such a depth." And it is affecting to think how ignorant I was when a young Christian. Alas, that so many older Christians are still ignorant of it. A.W.P. Of the bottomless depths of wickedness, pride, hypocrisy, and deceit left in my heart. 1743 A.D. Augustus Toplady, author of Rock of Ages, wrote thus in his private diary under December 31, 1767. "Upon a review of the past year, I desire to confess that my unfaithfulness has been exceeding great, my sins still greater, God's mercies greater than both. And again, my shortcomings and my misdoings, my unbelief and want of love would sink me into the lowest hell, was not Jesus my righteousness and my Redeemer." Listen to the words of that godly woman, the wife of that eminent missionary Adoniram Judson. "Oh, how I rejoice that I am out of the whirlpool, too gay, too trifling for a missionary's wife. That may be, but after all, gaiety is my lightest sin. It is my coldness of heart, my listlessness, my want of faith, my spiritual inefficiency and inertness, my love of self, the inherent and everyday pampered sinfulness of my nature that makes me such a mere infant in the cause of Christ, not the attractions of the world." John Newton, writer of that blessed hymn, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. when referring to the expectations which he cherished at the outset of his Christian life, wrote thus, "But alas, these my golden expectations have been like South Sea dreams. I have lived hitherto a poor sinner, and I believe I shall die one. Have I then gained nothing? Yes, I have gained that which I once would rather have been without." Such accumulated proof of the deceitfulness and desperate wickedness of my heart, as I hope by the Lord's blessing, has in some measure taught me to know what I mean when I say, "Behold, I am vile. I was ashamed of myself when I began to seek it. I am more ashamed now." James Inglis, editor of Waymarks in the Wilderness, at the close of his life, wrote Mr. J. H. Brooks, "As I am brought to take a new view of the end, my life seems so made up of squandered opportunities, and so barren of results, that it is sometimes very painful. But grace comes in to meet it all, and he will be glorified in my humiliation also." 1872. On which Mr. Brooks remarked, "How like him, and how unlike the boastings of those who are glorying in their fancied attainments." One more quotation, this time from a sermon by the late C.H. Spurgeon. Said the Prince of Preachers, "There are some professing Christians who can speak of themselves in terms of admiration, but from my inmost heart I loathe such speeches more and more every day that I live. Those who talk in such a boastful fashion must be constituted very differently from me. While they are congratulating themselves, I have to lie humbly at the foot of Christ's cross and marvel that I am saved at all, for I know that I am saved. I have to wonder that I do not believe Christ more, and equally wonder that I am privileged to believe in him at all, to wonder that I do not love him more, and equally to wonder that I love him at all, to wonder that I am not holier, and equally to wonder that I have any desire to be holy at all, considering what a polluted, debased, depraved nature I find still within my soul, notwithstanding all that divine grace has done in me. If God were ever to allow the fountains of the great deeps of depravity to break up in the best man that lives, he would make as bad a devil as the devil himself is. I care nothing for what these boasters say concerning their own perfections. I feel sure that they do not know themselves, or they could not talk as they often do. There is tinder enough in the saint who is nearest to heaven to kindle another hell, if God should but permit a spark to fall upon it. In the very best of men there is an infernal and well-nigh infinite depth of depravity.